Okay, class, good evening, good morning, or good night. Today we will discuss the next approach that you can use, which is the moral philosophical approach. So, moral philosophical approach is belief on the belief that the larger purpose of literature or cultural products is to teach morality and probe philosophical issue, which I think we all can agree with, because when you write something, you must want to share something uh, in terms of morality or value to your readers. And to analyze literary or cultural products from the perspective of this approach is therefore to determine whether a work conveys a lesson or message, and whether it can help we as the readers lead better lives and improve our understanding of the world. So the questions that we may ask as the reader is, what ideas does the work contain? Or how does the work bring forth its ideas? Through what? Through characters, through its plot, or to conflict? So that's how we use the moral philosophical approach to analyze certain literary works. And the advantage of a moral philosophical approach is that this approach does not view literature merely as art, which somehow isolated from all moral implications. Because as writers, we do sometimes have the moral burden to lead our readers to improve their lives. And then the second advantage is that this approach recognizes that literature can affect readers subtly or directly, and that the message of a work, and not just the decorous vehicle for that message, is important. So this is the second advantage that we have to see by understanding that any literary works, the message, even subtly or not, is more important than the format or the story itself. So this is three questions that you can ask yourself when you read any literary or cultural products and try to look at that product from the point of view of more philosophical approach. Is that the first one? What philosophical ideas or problems are addressed in this literary work? Second, what moral or ethical implications does the literary work convey? Third, what philosophical knowledge or frameworks might be useful in interpreting or digging deeper into the text? So, these three steps are crucial because, first, of course, when you read, you will want to know what kind of ideas, philosophical ideas, that this book or whatever product try to convey, and then what's the implication. And the third one is to find the best theory in moral or philosophical to uncover or to reveal the message of the literary works or cultural products. And then there's another one. What does it say about human nature or the human condition? So of course, when we talk about moral philosophical, it always relates to character or a person. So we have to look at it from the point of view of how the message affects someone or people in general. And if you're still confused about what is moral, well, these are some moral examples, which is an absolute moral principles. Include don't kill. That is an absolute moral principles. Although sometimes it doesn't work during wartime. And then the second one, speak the truth. That is also, I think, absolute moral principle. And then be careful with what you say and do to others. Respect the property of others, and treat people in need or distress as we would want to be treated if our situation were reversed. So I think if you're a Christian, most of these values are reflected also in the Bible. So this is some absolute moral principle example, but you can find more example like maybe in classroom, do not cheat or do not talk while other people speaking, that kind of small thing which sometimes we call ethics, it also falls under moral philosophical aspect. And there's also a relative moral principle. We have absolute and we have relative. For example, it is morally wrong to spend money on a luxury item, but if you spend money on a luxury item, is it a sin? Is it wrong? Well, no, but some people can see it as morally wrong, but it can also be seen like a just normal thing to uh, make ourselves happy. So this is relative, depend on how you see it. And the second example, it is morally right to care for and preserve our planet for future generations. Yes, of course, I think this should go into absolute, but sometimes people don't care about the future generation. They only think about what they need to do now because the present is the most important for them. So most people think about things in terms of present time, and for them maybe it is not really important to care and preserve the planet uh, because they still need it at present time. So that is also relative. And of course, when we talk about moral philosophical approach, we cannot separate it from philosophy because yeah, moral philosophical, of course it relates to philosophy. And there are some branches in philosophy which talks about not only moral but about some concept or ideas of how humans lives like. For example, the first one is uh, a concept called absurdism. This is a philosophical perspective that holds that the efforts of humanity to find meaning or rational explanation in the universe will ultimately fail, and hence are absurd because no such meaning exists, at least to human beings. The word absurd in this context does not mean logically impossible, but rather humanly impossible. So you know the meaning of the word absurd. You probably use it often. And in moral philosophical, this notion of absurdism came around 1940 50s when after the First World War in the 20th, human being thinks that okay, there's no way that human can fall into the same craziness. There's no way humanity will again fight uh, endless and meaningless war. So they had hope. But then what happened? Well, in 1940s to 1945, Second World War broke, and that really buried that hope of humanity. And at that time, some thinkers thought that this is absurd. Humanity cannot uh, improve, and they committed the same mistake. And that's why they think that uh, the meaning is ultimately fail. You cannot find meaning in this chaotic world with war and so on, and humanity never regretted what happened in the past. So that's why this absurdism notion came in the beginning because of the loss of hope in humanities when after First World War, then we have another war in just 2 decades. Um, of course, we can also look at this absurdism from today's point of view, where the world is not okay. Some people just attack other countries, which is uh, it's just illogical and it's just unthinkable. How can they do that? And war everywhere, and probably we will start to think that yes, this world is absurd. I mean, what's the meaning if um, humanity cannot improve into a better species? And that's why absurdism still uh, well, I would say relevant to today's situation because some people think that the world is going absurd. And of course, because this concept, there's also a lot of fictions that talks or the content is kind of like reflecting this absurdism. So this absurdist fiction is the genre of literature that uses non-chronological storytelling mostly. There's a surrealism as well and comedy to explore themes like existentialism and the human condition. The absurd in literature often follows main characters who feel purposeless or have developed a disillusionment with their lives, religion, or society. So basically, most of the characters in this kind of absurd fiction look at their life as meaningless, as purposeless, and they just live day by day, and they don't know what to feel in their lives. It just they believe that there's no meaning in their life. And what are the characteristics of this absurdist literature? First, irrational logic. So if you read absurdist fiction with logic, then you will be maybe desperate, annoyed, yeah, because it's just irrational. You have to put aside your logical mindset and just receive whatever the fiction tries to tell you, because although it is illogical. So some elements of absurdist stories might not make immediate sense to the readers, and events or scenes might seem out of order, surreal, or inscrutable. So when you read absurdist, just get rid of all your logical thinking and just accept being open-minded of what the author tried to say by using this all illogical rationale. And the second one, usually absurdist has existentialist topics. Themes in absurdist fiction might explore life after death, what it means to be human being, or the complexities of moral good and evil. Perhaps today's what I would say, let's say, I refer to the news film by Spielberg, Disclosure, about the existence of alien. Well, we all don't know whether alien exists or not, but that kind of thing, if it really happens, then it will uh, make us think about our existence. We will rethink about our existence. Is the alien a new species, or are they different beings? So that will also trigger our ideas of existence in our world. And then the third one, usually there are some dark humor in existential or in absurdist fiction. They often might make light or vulgar or taboo topics, or aim to intentionally provoke the reader with themes of violence, sexuality, or death. And then characters number four, it is sometimes satirizing situation, social criticism in form of comedy that makes fun of society, government, types of people, and corporations. I can see lots of this in Joko Anwar's movie. Yeah, for example, the latest one, Ghost in the Shell. It talks a lot about social criticism, how it is actually a satire to the situation of our country. And then the last characteristics that might be found in absurdist fiction is nihilism. So the word nihil means nothing, nada, none. Characters in absurdist fiction will often find no purpose in human life and will debate on the meaninglessness of religion and morality. So nihilism is about, yeah, it's also absurdism, it's part of absurdism. And here are some notable works of absurdist fiction that you can check out. First is Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut is a absurdist novelist. He wrote a lot of absurd novel. One of them is Cat's Cradle. It's a postmodern novel that satirizes technology and religion through a sci-fi story. And then we have another work by him, which is probably more familiar to you, Slaughterhouse Five. It is an anti-war novel that uses time travel to tell the story of a young soldier U.S. during World War II. And the second one, Joseph Heller, Catch 22. It is also a satirical novel set during World War II that explored the absurdity of war using non-chronological storytelling. And then we have absurd play as well, not a novel but a drama by Samuel Beckett, very famous, Waiting for Godot. It centers on two characters named Vladimir or Didi and Estragon or Gogo. as they ask existentialist questions about human existence while waiting for a person named Godot to arrive, which we know never arrived even until the end of the play. And then we have Kafka. This is a short story by him, The Metamorphosis. It's a novella that chronicles the experience of a salesman named Gregor Samsa who discovers that he has transformed into a giant insect. And then the second one is by Franz Kafka. The next one is another Kafka's work, The Trial. It is a novel about a man who is put on trial but doesn't know what crime he committed or who is accusing him. So, based on the first initial discussion of absurdism, I would like to focus only on one topic or one concept of absurdism, that is existentialism. Okay, so you might have heard about existentialism approach, and um, it relates to philosophical inquiries or questions such as what is the meaning of life? Who am I? Why am I here? What is existence? How should I live? Etc. So existentialism is asking these kind of question. And there are many of your seniors from many years ago have taken or discussed existentialism for their thesis. So probably it's one of the favorite topic or concept that they want to explore. Now, this is some of the example in I think it's Agnes 2002. He is analyzing Fyodor Dostoevsky Poor People, and then Muhammad Sofyan analyzing existentialism theme through protagonists in Paulo Coelho's Veronica the Sides to Die, and then Fook Ing discussing another existentialism themes in two novels, and then Ryan Steven also Dostoevsky, and we have Erlita who discuss Kafka for short story. This number six is not from our student. Then number seven, Carla discussing Kafka's Metamorphosis and Abase the Face of Another. And we still have many more like Joseph, and then number 17, Bill Huda, and then number 18, feminism. This can also be said as moral philosophical because feminism is a philosophical concept, right? And then Joward Eleanor, number 20. So there are many, even to, I think, I forgot whether we have this existentialism approach concept last year, but it's quite often that students take this approach as their thesis. Okay, so let's move on to the existentialism itself. So the questions, as I said, that is being asked by existentialists are: what does it all mean? Why are we here? What should I do with my life? So if or when you question yourself at least one of these questions, then you are doing existentialism because you are thinking about your existence. And look at this illustration. There's someone who wanted to buy pizza in the pizza shop called Existential Pizza, and then the counter person say it's a called that because we feel that people are entirely free and therefore responsible for what they make of themselves and for themselves. Now, do you still want the double and coffee with the fried mozzarella strips? So imagine that you have to mix your own pizza, but the outcome of the pizza, whether it's good or not, will be your responsibility because you make the choice. And that's existentialism. Every time you choose something, then you have to take responsibility or the consequences of your action. That's the main point of existentialism. So if you do something but you do not want to bear the consequences, then yeah, you cannot say that it is about existentialism. Existentialism is about choosing and uh, bearing the responsibilities or the consequences. So what is existentialism? So it is the philosophical belief that we are each responsible for creating purpose or meaning in our lives. Gods, governments, teachers, or other authorities do not give us our individual purpose and meaning. Only us know how to give meaning to our lives, not others, not even God, according to them. But later on, we will find there are other kind of existentialism that believe in God. So existentialists, both theist and atheists, reject not only traditional religious system that attempt to systematically provide pat answers, but also the possibility of any ultimate answers, which is called the subjectivity of truth. So they insist that even if a God and a heaven exist, the meaning of this life and how you should live will always be open questions, requiring decisions you must face as an individual. So if you look at how religion and existentialism look at life, this is the two questions that they will ask. If traditional religious and ethical system will always tell us to how we should live. If you go to any sermons, if you go to any religious community or meeting, then probably one of the discussion is how I should live. That is a traditional religious ethical system. But existentialism asks a different question. It asks, how can I live? Not how should I live. How can I live? So it's a completely different perspective of looking at life. So I already told you that we have theistic and atheistic existentialism. I will introduce you a little bit to the theistic. So I already told you about the theistic existentialists, and some of them are Soren Kierkegaard, and then Gabriel Marcel and Martin Buber. So you can read their books. Their books is absurd, but it is theistic. So they see religion as the lived experience of individuals rather than the systemized philosophy of the church or even the Bible. So they believe in God, they believe in the Bible, but they don't really believe in how the systemized church or whatever belief or religion should control their life or telling them what to do. Because for them, the relationship is directly between them and God. So it's religion is something to live, some live experience rather than being taught or being sermon in the systemized institution like the church. In many ways, their philosophies are a call to return to an earlier time, to a time when religion was a personal, immediate, and passionate experience, as opposed to an overly structured and overly intellectualized pursuit of the proper procedures and the proper belief with regard to some obscure point of theology. So this is what they want to they want to show. Religion is a personal, it is immediate and passionate experience. Uh, Experiencing God oneself without uh, getting stuck in an institution. So when we discuss about existentialist literary product or cultural products, then usually they have somehow similar themes that revolves around absurdity, and these are so these are the top 7 existential themes that you can explore. The first one, you might want to explore the absurdity. So for the existentialist, life is absurd. It makes no sense and has no meaning or ultimate purpose, but human beings need it to make sense, to may have meaning and purpose. So what is it that when you find the word is meaningless, it is your job or task according to existentialism to find that meaning to you and to find the purpose of your life. And then the second one is the concept of alienation. This is the feeling that you're a stranger in your own life, a stranger in the world. So if you think that you are different from others, you cannot, uh, have a good relation with others, you seems to be alienated, then this is what the concept is meant. The third is the topic of anxiety. Feeling of unease you get when you start to recognize that life is absurd. And then theme number four, forlornness, a feeling of loneliness you get when you realize that no one can help you make sense of your existence. And then responsibility, everyone bears responsibility. If no one is going to give you a guidebook to life, you have to bear responsibility for making your way through it and creating some kind of meaning for it. And number six is authenticity. People want authenticity, to live in a way that is in tune with the truth of who they are as human beings and the world they live in. Because if we live based on what other people want us to live, then we are not authentic, because we are still controlled by others, we are still constructed by others. How we live our life depends on other, then it is not authentic. Authentic is being yourself, the truth of who you are. And then topic number seven is about death, the ultimate context for all human action and an important source of the absurdity of life. Now, when we talk about existentialism, there are lots of books that talks about existentialism, and some of them are these, like Don DeLillo, and then Kazuo Ishiguro, Tom Stoppard. This is a play. And then Albert Camus, The Plague, and another one is the uh, has what is it called? The I cannot read the title. And then the Herman Hesse, Steppenwolf, and then Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and also Zora Neale Hurston with Their Eyes Are Were Watching God. Oh yeah, that is The Stranger, yeah, by Albert Camus. And then another list of works are Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, Notes from the Ground by Fyodor Dostoevsky, and then Metamorphosis Franz Kafka, The Trial of Franz Kafka, Fyodor Dostoevsky the Idiot, Ionesco the Rhinoceros, this is a play, and then Crab's Last Tape and Dumbwaiter also plays. So the three last one are drama. And they have this absurd existentialist theme in their play, and also in the novel that is mentioned there. Okay, now that you know or understand a bit about moral philosophical and also existentialism in particular, then the next step is going to be what should I do, or how do I start doing moral philosophical analysis? And this is the steps to do moral philosophical analysis. So first is that you have to make sure that the literary work carries a strong philosophical or moral issue, because if not, then you will have difficulties in finding the data. This is a very common explanation. You have to find the context, strong context of philosophical inside the literary work. And then after you find the literary works, decide what theory to use, whether existentialism, absurdism, Marxism, feminism, moral values, etc. They all are part of moral philosophical. After that, you identify the theme. Maybe you find one or two themes that you can find. Maybe it's about alienation, about forlornness, about death, about existence, blah blah blah. So find the theme, and then the analysis should focus on the characters, because moral philosophical is about people, so it has to relate to character. And then read the literary work for more than once to find details. And then find dialogue, action, reaction of the characters that relate to the theory. And the theory should be the main instrument in revealing the theme through the characters. So not only as a ornament, but it is the main instrument to reveal the existentialist topic. And then after that you analyze the findings and draw a conclusion based on your findings. This is one example of one of the thesis written by my students. He discussed the conflicts, but the topic existentialist crisis through the film Birdman. So maybe you are familiar with this movie. This movie is about the former cinema superhero named Regan Thompson, played by Michael Keaton. Is mounting an ambitious Broadway production that he hopes will breathe new life into his stagnant career. It is risky, but he hopes that his creative gamble will prove that he is a real artist and not just a washed-up movie star. As opening night approaches, a castmate is injured, forcing Regan to hire an actor who is guaranteed to shake things up. Meanwhile, Regan must deal with his girlfriend, daughter, and ex-wife. So this is quite a story about existentialism, about losing one identity because his identity is always related to the character that he played as a Birdman. And then the second example is a study of Franz Kafka, The Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis tells the story of salesman Gregor Samsa, who wakes one morning to find himself inexplicably transformed into a huge insect and subsequently struggles to adjust to his new condition. So, of course, it is illogical, it is absurd. How come someone turn into an insect? Well, anything can happen in an absurd literary products or literary books. So these two examples are just two among many that you can find yourself if you just Google like existentialism approach, uh, let's say discussion or analysis, then you will find maybe thousands or millions of them around the world. But for now, your next assignment for our next meeting is to uh, for you to discuss it in group or individual, two-person or individual, max two-person. First, you have to choose one literary or cultural work with a strong moral or philosophical issue, and then you find, discuss, and make presentation. First is of course what is the moral lesson of the story, and then what theme of existentialism that you can find at least one and elaborate through what literary aspect you reveal. Is it through character, through conflict? For example, I'm just using the same one, yeah. Metamorphosis, for example, the metamorphosis, the moral lesson of the story. Well, let's say that one's life or the theme is about how to become authentic and not be being affected by others. But metamorphosis is a story where someone's life is dictated by other people, so that people turn into something different. And then the theme of existentialism is alienation. Of course, one of the theme in metamorphosis is alienation, and then the aspect is through the character portrayal. So that's how your presentation should be. What is the topic or the literary works that you discuss? Could be film, could be novel, could be drama. And then after that, what is the moral lesson and what theme of existentialism that you can find, and through what aspect that you review that topic. Okay, so it's simple. It's not a full blown analysis, but just an example of analysis. Yeah. So just use one example to show the theme that you found in that literary works. All right, so that's the end of our uh, asynchronous meeting on moral and philosophical, and I will see you next week for your presentation. Thank you. Have a good day.